Imagine a chainsaw so heavy it took 2 strong men to lift, replaced almost overnight by a 12-kilogram beast that doubled forestry output worldwide. Picture a 3-wheeled cutting machine from South Africa that hopped through pine plantations like a mechanical kangaroo, or a 90,000-pound monster from Canada with 42 hydraulic cylinders that did the job of an entire crew. Between 1950 and 1990, the forest changed forever. Here are 10 old logging machines that were shockingly ahead of their time. Number 10. The Gaffner Iron Mule Forwarder. We start in 1957, when most logging in North America still depended on cable skidders dragging logs through the dirt, or on horses pulling pulpwood out of the bush. A small American manufacturer named Gaffner had a different idea. What if instead of dragging the wood and tearing up the forest floor, you carried the wood on top of a machine? That idea became the Gaffner Iron Mule Forwarder, first built in 1957, and it became one of the most popular early forwarders in North American logging. The Iron Mule was a small, articulated forwarder built on either a Ford or a Massey Ferguson farm tractor chassis. It used a 4-cylinder Ford 19.2 cubic-inch diesel engine connected to a 4-speed transmission with a 2-speed selector, giving operators 8 forward and 2 reverse gears. A hydraulic grapple loader sat behind the cab, and a bunk at the rear held the cut wood. Why was this ahead of its time? In 1957, the dominant idea in American logging was still the whole tree-length system: fell the tree, drag it out, process it at the landing. The forwarder concept that the Iron Mule embraced, cutting the wood into short pieces in the forest and then carrying those pieces out on the back of a small vehicle, was the cut-to-length philosophy that would not dominate global logging until decades later. The Iron Mule was small enough to thread between standing trees in a thinning operation, which made it especially valuable for pulpwood harvesting, where the trees were small and numerous. Loggers in the northern United States used iron mules for decades, and many of those machines are still working today on family woodlots, hauling firewood and pulp out of small jobs that bigger modern forwarders cannot economically reach. Number 9. The Stihl Contra chainsaw. Before 1959, forestry work was brutal. Even after gasoline chainsaws appeared in the late 1920s, they remained huge, heavy 2-man machines that required serious effort to use. Then in 1959, the German company Stihl released a chainsaw that changed the world. They called it the Contra. The Stihl Contra was the first gearless steel 1-man chainsaw. It weighed just 12 kilograms, about 26.5 pounds, which was light enough that a single logger could carry it, start it, and use it all day. It produced 6 horsepower from a single-cylinder engine that hit maximum performance at 7,000 revolutions per minute. Most importantly, it used a diaphragm carburetor that worked in any orientation. That meant the operator could swivel the saw to any angle, point it any direction, fell a tree, or buck a log lying flat on the ground, all without having to adjust anything by hand. The impact on the forestry industry was unprecedented. Stihl's official figures show that forestry companies using the Contra were able to increase productivity by 200%. Production at Stihl rose from 104 saws per day in 1959 to 500 saws per day by 1960. The company workforce nearly tripled from around 640 employees in 1959 to more than 1,500 in 1960. The Contra triggered a global revolution in mechanized chainsaw logging, and it is the direct ancestor of every modern chainsaw used today. By 1971, Stihl had become the largest chainsaw manufacturer in the world, a position it still holds. The Contra was produced from 1959 to 1968, and surviving examples are still hunted by collectors today. Number 8. The Prentice Hydraulic Knuckleboom Loader. In 1945, a Finnish-American mechanic named Leo Heikkinen opened a small machine shop just southwest of Prentice, Wisconsin, to repair and fabricate farm construction and logging equipment. He watched loggers struggle every day to load logs onto trucks using mechanical truck-mounted cable winches, A-frames, and gin poles, a slow, dangerous process that needed at least 3 people working together. So, in 1956, Heikkinen built the world's first hydraulic knuckleboom log loader. He named the invention after the little Wisconsin village where his shop was located. His company, the Heikkinen Machinery Company, was officially incorporated as Prentice Hydraulics in What made the knuckleboom revolutionary was the hinge. A traditional crane boom is a single straight piece. The knuckleboom has a joint in the middle that folds, like a human elbow, which means it can reach out, fold up, swing wide, and place a log with surgical precision in a fraction of the space a traditional crane would need. The knuckleboom could be mounted on a truck, a trailer, or its own pedestal. One operator working hydraulic controls could now do the loading work that used to take 3 men with rigging and cables. The Prentice hydraulic loader gradually moved up the scale, first dominating pulpwood loading where the small pieces needed quick handling, and then expanding to handle full tree-length wood and the giant logs of the West Coast. Heikkinen sold Prentice hydraulics to Omach Industries of Portland, Oregon in 19. An additional factory was built in Zebulon, North Carolina in 19. The Prentice knuckleboom is now the industry standard worldwide. Every modern log loader on every continent is a direct descendant of Leo Heikkinen's 9. Number 7. The Garrett Tree Farmer skidder. In the late 1950s, in a small machine shop in Enumclaw, Washington, the son of a black diamond coal miner sketched an idea on a napkin during a coffee break that would change logging forever. His name was Dwight Garrett, and his idea was to build an articulated 4-wheel drive logging tractor with rubber tires that could pull logs out of the woods without tearing up the forest the way crawler tractors did. Garrett worked with his chief mechanic, Mike Nanovich, to turn that napkin sketch into a real machine. The Garrett Model 10, the first production tree farmer skidder, was introduced around 1960. Some tree farmer designs trace back to Garrett's earlier 1949 work. The tree farmer was the first rubber-tired articulated logging skidder. It bent in the middle to steer instead of using steering wheels like a car. It had a winch on the back to pull logs. Later versions added hydraulic grapples that let the operator back up to a pile of logs, grab them, and drive off. No more setting cables one log at a time. Why was this ahead of its time? The tree farmer was generations ahead of the crawler dozers and steel-tracked machines that had dominated logging since the 1930s. Its rubber tires were gentler on the soil and on young growth. It was faster than a crawler. It was articulated so it could turn in places a steered machine could not, and it was small and light enough to work where the big steel tractors could not go. At its peak, Garrett Enumclaw Company employed 87 local workers in Enumclaw. The skidders were also manufactured under license in Gothenburg, Sweden, and in Toronto, Canada. Tree farmer skidders were sold worldwide, including to buyers from South America and the Soviet Union. Every major logging equipment manufacturer eventually copied the design. The Tree Farmer brand was later sold to Franklin in 1990, and Franklin built both brands until the company shut down in 2010. But every articulated rubber-tired skidder on the planet today traces back to Dwight Garrett's coffee break sketch in Enumclaw. Number 6. The Brunett 350 boxer forwarder crossed the Atlantic to Sweden in 1962, where a forestry engineer named Lars Brun, working at Värmland Skogsarbetsstudier, the Värmland Forest Work Research Organization, known as VSA, demonstrated a prototype that would launch the modern Nordic forwarder industry. The machine was called the Brunett 350 Boxer, and it was the first true forwarder built in Sweden. Brun's approach was brilliantly practical. Instead of designing a forwarder from scratch, he took an existing wheeled tractor, cut the front axle off, and attached a load-carrying rear chassis with a single axle of wheels. He bolted on a hydraulic grapple loader originally designed for trucks. He installed an articulated steering joint between the two chassis halves. The rear wheels were powered by a hydraulic motor that engaged only when needed. The whole machine had a curb weight of about 7.7 tons. After some technical improvements, the Brunett was commercially produced in 12 different versions starting in 1963. Then in 1968, the well-known Swedish manufacturing company Kockums took over production, and the spelling was changed slightly to Brunett. By 1969, an astonishing 67% of Sweden's total industrial roundwood harvest was being transported by forwarders or similar forest tractors, while skidders never extracted more than about 10% of Swedish industrial wood, even at their peak. The Brunett did not just create a new machine, it launched the Nordic cut-to-length system that today, more than 60 years later, harvests roughly 35% of the world's industrial roundwood. Every Ponce, John Deere, Komatsu, and Rottne forwarder working today is a descendant of Lars Brun's 1962 prototype. Number 5. The Timberjack 200 series skidder. Garrett may have invented the articulated rubber-tired skidder, but it was a Canadian company called Timberjack that turned the idea into a worldwide phenomenon. Timberjack was founded in Woodstock, Ontario in the 1950s by Wesley McGill and Robert Simmons. The two men designed an articulated four-wheel drive tractor with a winch at the back, built a prototype, and watched the orders roll in. The Timberjack 200 series skidder, the first articulated skidder to bear the Timberjack name, was powered by a 61-horsepower Ford gasoline engine and carried a suggested list price of just $8,925. In late 1950s, the traditional color of all early Timberjack products was a distinctive reddish-orange that became instantly recognizable in logging camps from Canada to Australia. Timberjack quickly became the dominant articulated skidder brand worldwide. The company was bought by Eaton Corporation in the 1960s and operated as its forestry equipment division for 2 decades. In 1984, Timberjack management did a leveraged buyout from Eaton to become independent. They were acquired by FMG, the Finnish forest machine group owned by Roma Repola, and then bought by John Deere in 2000. What made the Timberjack ahead of its time was the combination of features. It packaged Garrett's articulated four-wheel drive concept with proper logging-grade engineering, heavier axles, stronger frames, planetary gear reductions in the wheels, dedicated winches, and the kind of brutally simple construction loggers needed. Timberjack became the most used skidder in Australia at one point, with about 87% market share, and its skidders were so well built that vintage Timberjacks from the 1960s and 1970s are still working in forests around the world more than 50 years later. Number 4. The Drott track-type feller buncher. In the late 1960s in Wisconsin, a logging equipment developer named Drott did something nobody had ever done before. He built a machine that could fell a standing tree, hold it upright in midair, and stack it in a neat bunch on the ground, all without a human being ever touching a chainsaw. Drott is widely credited with developing the first feller buncher in the late 1960s. Some sources cite the date as 1968. The machine featured an excavator base with a shear-like felling head mounted on a knuckleboom. Reports claim it could clear the equivalent of 100 trees per hour. For reference, a skilled chainsaw operator working manually in the same forest might fell 40 or 50 trees in a full day. Drott's machine did that in less than an hour. The Drott Manufacturing Company itself had a long history. It was founded by Edward Drott in 1916 as the Drott Tractor Company in Wisconsin, became the Drott Manufacturing Company in 1923, and was taken over by Tenneco in 1968. After that, it became a division of Case Corporation. The feller buncher was ahead of its time in 2 crucial ways. First, it solved the most dangerous job in the woods, felling trees by hand, by putting the operator inside a steel cab safely away from falling timber. Studies later showed that mechanized felling reduces total injury claims by about 14% and reduces struck by object injuries by about 8%. Second, the feller buncher was the foundation of every modern, fully mechanized logging operation. By the late 1960s and 1970s, the entire North American logging industry shifted from labor-intensive to capital-intensive, and Drott's design started that transformation. Today, machines like the John Deere 859M, the Caterpillar 568, and the Tigercat 870 all trace their lineage directly back to Drott's late 1960s prototype. Number 3. The Koehring Shortwood Harvester. If the Drott feller buncher was a giant leap forward, the Koehring Shortwood Harvester was a moonshot. Manufactured by Koehring Waterers starting in 1969, this machine combined 3 completely separate logging jobs, felling, processing, and loading, into one self-contained vehicle. It is the direct ancestor of the modern cut-to-length harvester. The Koehring Shortwood Harvester was enormous. It stood 21 feet tall. It contained 42 hydraulic cylinders. It used 13 hydraulic pumps. It carried more than a mile of hydraulic hoses inside its frame. Its empty weight was over 90,000 pounds, and it cost roughly $125,000 in 1970s dollars, equivalent to nearly $1 million in today's money. What did it do? Everything. The machine drove up to a standing tree, sheared the tree at the base, lifted the tree fully into the air, delimbed it, cut it into pre-measured short logs of pulpwood length, and stacked the cut wood neatly on a loading rack, ready to be transferred to a forwarder or truck. One operator did the work of an entire crew. Between 1969 and roughly 1975, only about 170 to 175 Shortwood harvesters were built. They worked primarily in New Brunswick and elsewhere in eastern Canada with paper companies like NBIP. The machines were famously heavy and left big ruts in soft ground. Most were drained of their fluids and buried on site in the mid to late 1980s when paper companies switched to more practical equipment. One surviving Shortwood harvester is preserved today at the Central New Brunswick Woodmen's Museum in Boyerstown, New Brunswick. The Koehring Shortwood Harvester was, in many ways, 50 years too early. The cut-to-length concept it pioneered did not become mainstream globally until the 1990s and 2000s, when smaller, lighter, computer-controlled Scandinavian harvesters perfected the idea. But the Shortwood harvester proved it was possible. Number 2. The Hydroax Fellabuncher. In 1970, in the southern United States, two inventors named Carroll Nelson and Len Vicina took the Fellabuncher concept in a completely new direction. While Drott had built his on an excavator base with crawler tracks, Nelson and Vicina built theirs on a four-wheel drive, hydrostatic rubber-tired chassis from Pettibone Corporation. This was the first hydrostatic wheel-type Fellabuncher, and it was called the Hydroax. A hydrostatic drive means there is no traditional mechanical transmission. The engine drives a hydraulic pump, which sends pressurized fluid to hydraulic motors at the wheels. This gives the operator infinite speed control from 0 to maximum, smooth acceleration with no gear changes, and the ability to creep up to a tree at a fraction of a mile per hour or speed across a clearing at 13.8 miles per hour. That kind of fine control was a revelation in Their first product was actually the Hydroax 520 brush cutter. Within 1 year of its release, Hydroax was earning $700,000 in sales on the back of that single product. The Hydroax 520 was originally designed for clearing brush, but it was quickly adapted with felling shears and saw heads to become a real Fellabuncher. The wheel Fellabuncher was ahead of its time in a way that still matters today. While tracked machines are essential on steep slopes and soft soil, wheel Fellabunchers like the Hydroax could move from job to job much faster, work efficiently on flat or moderately sloped southern pine plantations, and transport easily by highway. National Hydroax was sold to Omark Industries in Omark was bought by Blount in 1985, and Caterpillar bought Blount's forestry division in 2000. The Hydroax brand was rebranded as Prentice in 2006, but every modern wheel Fellabuncher you see working in the American South today is a direct descendant of Carroll Nelson and Len Vicina's 1970 invention. Number 1. The Bell Tri-Wheeler Fellabuncher. The number 1 machine on our list is so unusual that when most loggers first see one, they assume it cannot possibly work. It looks wrong. It looks unstable. It looks like somebody built it on a dare. But it worked brilliantly, and it dominated southern pine thinning operations for years. In the early 1980s, Bell Equipment of South Africa partnered with Moorbach to introduce the first three-wheel Fellabuncher to the United States market. The machine was called the Moorbell. The partnership soon fell apart, and Bell later imported its own three-wheelers directly from South Africa with a small assembly shop in Garden City, near Savannah, Georgia. Hydroax, Gaffner, CTR, and Franklin also marketed three-wheel Fellabunchers at various points. Why three wheels? Bell originally developed the tri-wheeler concept back in the 1960s for the South African sugarcane industry, where the same idea of a maneuverable three-wheeled grab machine made sense in the cane fields. Then Paul Bell led the development of converting the tri-wheeler into a Fellabuncher for the logging industry. The three-wheel layout, with two large drive wheels in front and a single steering tail wheel at the back, gave the machine an extraordinarily tight turning radius. It could spin almost in place, which made it perfect for navigating between standing trees during thinning operations without damaging the remaining trees. In a southern pine plantation being thinned for the first time, the Bell tri-wheeler could thread between rows of young pines that a four-wheel articulated buncher would have damaged. Loggers said the machine waddled more than it drove, and the tail wheel would hang up in mud. But for pine plantation thinning in the American South and across South Africa, the Bell tri-wheeler was unbeatable. By the late 2000s, the three-wheeler era was ending. Valmet, the last company to offer the machine, stopped production in late 2000s. But there are still examples working in Africa and parts of the American South today. and they remain a reminder that sometimes the strangest looking design is exactly the right answer for a very specific job. And there you have it. 10 old logging machines from 1950 to 1990 that were genuinely ahead of their time. Every modern forwarder, harvester, skidder, knuckleboom loader, and feller buncher working in the world's forests today traces back to one of these pioneering machines. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more forestry history, and let me know in the comments which of these 10 machines you would most like to see in action.